welcome to Conscious Curiosities, where we unlock the wisdom of the universe which lies within us. I'm Maria Luz, your host, an astrologer, hypnotist, and psychic medium. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the new moon, which happens on December 19th at 5:45 p.m. Pacific, and that's happening at 28 degrees Sagittarius. And a few days before that, maybe several days, Mercury makes a trine aspect with Neptune. And a trine aspect is this easy flow of energy. And that's when these two planets are both in the same element. So they're both in water signs right now. And it's an exact trine when they're at the exact degree of their respective water signs. So with this one on December 11th, which is actually, as I record this, it's today. This is Mercury in Scorpio and then Neptune in Pisces. And the reason I'm connecting these two is because of the Sabian symbols. So you may have heard me talk about these before. And I'll put some links in the show notes in case you're interested. But they are channeled symbols for all 360 degrees of the zodiac. And they were channeled in 1925 by a psychic to this sort of Renaissance man, philosopher, astrologer, writer, among other things, named Mark Edmund Jones. And then they were further analyzed, explored by Dane Rudyard. And I generally use Rudyard's book, An Astrological Mandala, The Cycle of Transformations, and its 360 symbolic phases as my source. But there are other sources of interpretation for Sabian symbols. So I look at those sometimes as well. And this time I did that, and I'll put a link in the show notes. So long lead up about my my love of Sabian symbols, and just so you know where they kind of stand in time and where they come from. However, they really do draw upon the archetypes of society, and that book I just quoted, the title, and the phases that we go through. So they are always relevant to some degree because we're always on some phase of evolution or devolution. So the Sabian symbols for this trine that's happening today with Mercury and Neptune, and then the new moon happening on the 19th, there is this theme about, on the one hand, respectability, and on the other hand, this kind of bottled in rebelliousness. And the reason why is because the Mercury is sitting on this Sabian symbol that's about Halloween and the pranks and things like that. And then the new moon is about this. It's literally is something like a fat boy mowing the lawn of his, like, fancy suburban home or something. So they're linked in my mind because there's this idea about upholding a certain veneer, a certain social veneer, and also needing to have a something authentic underneath that. And also, sometimes that authenticity contains shadows or aspects of ourselves that we know will not be accepted to to the current order or authority. And sometimes what happens when we have these two things um, in contradiction or with pent up friction. So, on the one hand, there's this sanctioned day of, Halloween, when people can, express maybe a side of themselves that they never would on the other 365 days or 364 days. There's also on the other side, there's the image, the fat boy of, well, is, what about how we're taking care of ourselves? Like maybe we're taking care of the metaphorical front yard um, just enough so that people don't notice that maybe there's something going on that we're not taking care of about ourselves. So all of these things were kind of floating around. Um, and just again, I am as susceptible as everybody else right now to be thinking of things in polarities. However, we're really being called to be more creative and inclusive about our thoughts about just about everything. Um, and I think this, as Uranus moves into Gemini, that is a mechanism for us to allow these insights to drop in that will help Pluto and Aquarius, that will help move us forward to a future that is more just. Um, so I also think that this loose energy that maybe or I'm sorry, this energy that loosens stuckness that can come about through these sanctioned things like Halloween, um, or maybe other events as well, where people let themselves go by partying or whatever. Um, Another way is just through creativity. So creativity also loosens up that energy of being repressed or oppressed or suppressed by a system, or and even an internalized system. So I just feel a lot of this push by Neptune, especially as Neptune and Saturn have been hanging out together in Pisces, to figure out how do we have some kind of exercise routine for our creativity, whatever that looks like to you. It's probably equally as important as just moving your body, and whatever that looks like to you. And again, being creative about that, like what feels good, not like looking externally as to what's on offer, but looking more internally as to what feels right, what feels good to move that energy, physically and also mentally, through creativity, and all of those things come together with our soul purpose, hopefully. Finally, I want to let you know about this event that I'm participating in. And it is with this new school that I'm going to be teaching astrology with. It's called the McAllister Academy, and it's a free community event. They're going to be quarterly, and they're gallery mediumship. So I'm not sure how many of you have experienced that. But what it is there's the gallery are all the people in the audience. And then there are, a certain number of mediums from one to many, who reach out and connect with a spirit. So a loved one, in the spirit realm. And then the medium starts describing this spirit And then we see who, they're by deduction, we find out who their person is in the gallery. And so I'm going to be participating in that. And then all of us who are doing that mediumship demo, we are all teachers at the school. So there are going to be breakout rooms for all of the different content that we will be teaching. So, and this is online. Again, it's free. And I really love that Angie, who began the Academy, she calls it a community event, because I find that it really unifies us as humans to see how fragile life is, how complex it is, and also the resiliency of people who have gone through such loss and grief in so many different ways that you cannot imagine from where you sit in your own complex life. But that's what I get out of it anyway. It reconnects me to humans and reminds me that we're all in this struggle together, and we're all doing our best. Um, and and there is some energy when we are sitting in that space of mediumship that we're absorbing from the other realm. I truly believe that if you are open to that, you will absorb that, and it is a very soothing energy to be in, to open yourself to. So I know some people attend these things just for entertainment, or because they really want to connect, to one person in spirit. However, I would argue that even if none of those things happen or appeal to you, it is a way to build community and to reconnect us to one another. And I think we all could use that lately. So that's on December 20th, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time on Zoom. And it's the McAllister Academy. And I'll put some information in the show notes. I hope to see you there. And also, if you're still looking for a Christmas gift, I do have gift cards on my website for all of my services. With that, I wish you a wonderful weekend and start to the week next week. Bye bye.